What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Kriegs Korner. I'm your host, Adam Krieger. Today, I am joined by another Vendetta guy, someone who I've actually appeared in a little bit of content with, and we're going to get into that a little bit, but it's Garrett Burroughs. Garrett, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I feel like this is kind of long overdue. You're one of you've been here since well before I've been here, I think, and I've kind of just like making my way through. But after the NFL draft, and that was the show we did the live stream together.
Yeah.
Ups and downs. It was me, you, and Scott fucking battling our way through it through Alex's fucking
Through Alex's drunken rants.
yeah. That we had some moments that could have gone very either way on that. So I want to have you on a little bit different controlled format. We'll talk some NFL, we'll talk some UFC, and we'll talk some NBA. But before we get into that, why don't you kind of tell me about how you got to Vendetta and like your experiences here thus far?
So this is actually my second stint at Vendetta. I started, I guess it was
Ooh, second stint.
early like 2019, I believe. I was with the site for almost a year or so. Some things happened. I left for a little bit. I came back in January, and I've been full time since like I think it's like December 30th. And then the first day I came back, I was putting out articles and about like UFC stuff and stuff like that. And it's been great being back here. It's such a great place to be at right now. Everyone can see that this place is going this place is going places. So
What
it's
what what
now's the time to
changed?
get on here.
What changed for you to come back? Like, was it just like you had a change of heart? People left here that you didn't like, or like what was it?
So what happened was Trey and Alex were on a Zoom call for I guess like 4 or 5 hours, and they were like shit faced, I guess. And then Alex started texting me, not producer Alex, Alex Chick, and he was just like, "You gotta get on this call. Like Trey wants to talk to you." Like da 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 da. And I was like, "Okay." Like I haven't had any affiliation with the site in like a year or so, or just about. I get on the call, and Trey's just like, "Yeah, we want to have you back. Like, this is something you're interested in. This is what I'm looking for out of you. Like, da 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 da." And I was like, "Okay, like, we'll give it another shot. Like, if he's cool with me coming back, like, I'm cool coming back, 100%." So it kind of started from there, and then we're here now, and I'm not I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah,
I'm here for the long haul.
you could definitely tell there's been a big divide in the people. I only came in last semester, so it was like the last week in January, and there was a big intern class that came in with me, and I think like maybe 5 or 6 of the 20-ish that stuck around, which is kind of crazy. And we're kind of doing it all again. We had another big intern class, but you could tell the people that are kind of down with the cause and they're here, to ride the wave through ups and downs, the shitty months, and that they shouldn't get to celebrate the wins, and especially the
Yep,
simple type shit. So
correct.
we did clean house. I know Emma says she coined the term spring cleaning. We spring cleaned last year. I think we made some necessary, I'll say adjustments, letting rid of some people and just like
Yeah.
kind of like redoubling down on like what Trey wants the site to be and kind of like who we are as a company. So, but I do kind of want to get into a little bit of intercompany stuff before we get into the sports. You kind of mentioned not producer Alex before, and we talked about being through like kind of hell and the culture here. So for those of you that don't know, probably no one really knows. Alex Jacobs, who had a great episode on this show. I like Alex. He's a good guy, I think.
Yeah.
He's the host of the All Day Everyday show. Tim and his boy Manny and producer Christian. So they put their episodes out on Fridays as well. We're the same day this goes out, but they went on their own YouTube channel, and people, including Jackson, did not like that. Kind of, what are your thoughts on that? Because I could kind of go on both sides of the fence, but I, I want to hear what you have to say first.
I think I I'm with you, whereas I get both sides of the story here. I do get their side of thinking like, hey, everyone should have their own YouTube, like bring in your own viewers and stuff like that. That's like a different set of eyes to Vendetta, which they can also bring to Vendetta. But I don't know. At the same time, like I don't want to say like it looks like sketchy or anything, but like it like to me when I first heard that, it seems like if they get really big, it's super easy for them to just pull away and just do their own thing, like take the viewers, take their subs, and just do their own thing and have no link to Vendetta. Not to say that they would do that, obviously, but like
I don't think
it's
they're
just
that type
it
of
gives
people,
them
but
that.
it gives that appeal.
No,
It gives like, oh, we could do
yes,
this on our own. And I mean, and the kind of, I don't know if it's the craziest part about that is that, but his show does numbers. You know,
hmm
he's pulling it in, like thinking like
they
thinking like
have a formula there.
yeah, and they're doing it right, and they're doing things that other podcasts here aren't doing, including myself. Like they're going super hard on socials, and they're doing things like that. Part of it is because they have like a bigger team behind them, and they've invested their time into that. But when it comes to like the other YouTube channel, I kind of see where they're coming from, where every show should have their own YouTube channel. But I think that step is we're a few years or a few thousand subscribers away from doing that. Because once our goal right now, and our specifically with YouTube, is we want to get that thing to 1,000 subs, so we can
Mhm.
monetize it, and then we can go from there and kind of get more into YouTube algorithm and expand our growth in there. And those 150 views, they didn't come on our channel. Those 15 subs he
Correct.
got, whether even if and Jackson said, even if one sub isn't sub to ours, it's sub to theirs, that's kind of an L for us. But their YouTube channel has a purpose. And I think maybe a solution for this would have been like maybe show clips go on their show, and the other type of content, maybe like behind the scenes, like their cut scenes, stuff like that could go on their show, and they can do stuff like that for them separately. But I kind of agree with Jackson, and I mean, even though Trey didn't explicitly say it, I think he was kind of pissed about it too.
Mhm.
That stuff could have been going to us, and their YouTube channel could be equally as successful if they do clips and they put their shorter segments, or they just want to put their interviews on there. Because I know, they're bringing in these huge gambling touts, which is, I do want to give a lot of credit to them as well, because yesterday they also had, it was them and Little Kenny and the other guy who they had just had on their show. They were all chopping it up on Twitter together. Like they were tweeting at the All Day Everyday show, like they're going to run it back on their podcast, which is all good things for us and
Mhm.
for them. And like it's hard to ignore. When it comes to the YouTube channel, I think it could have been handled a little bit differently. Um,
I also just wish that there was more plug of Vendetta, I guess, because like it just doesn't seem like they're really driving home the fact that they are a Vendetta podcast. And like I know that like they've got the links and the descriptions and stuff like that because like producer Alex said that on Cheese, like, he got pressed on to start Cheese the release the day yesterday. But like I
the thing
just
with Cheese was that like it was recorded Monday, and then everything kind of. So I think that was out. That was producer Alex's first like hint out to what was going on, and then so that happened, and then the show didn't come out till Wednesday or
yeah.
Tuesday or late yesterday, Tuesday, and then so like it was just like some stuff had happened in real time, and then it had gone to the show, and we had gone back and saw his like reaction. Because as much as I'm like all for the camera guy, like I kind of get where Alex was like he was fucking blindsided by that, and like it was I. I can imagine if I was in his spot, I would not have been happy for that to have been the first time he heard of that.
No.
So like I get it, but I mean, obviously, Trey's
Also,
company, he gets to run it how he wants, and I don't
if there was
knock the
also a little bit
hustle.
of communication too, right? Like if they would have just been like, "Hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. We're probably going to launch this on this day. Like we're still going to be doing all of this stuff." I feel like there would have been no issue at all. But there was like no communication at all, basically about it. They just like went up and did it.
Yeah, and the only thing that I probably would say I would disagree with what the way they handled it was like producer Alex coming so back over the top and like coming back at Jackson, like you just like everyone need to think for a second. And part of that probably was because he was just like blindsided with it on a show that was like recording, and he was just like in his not like in his feels, but even in the show, he's like, I got to go tell them. Like he didn't know what to do, and it being like live on a podcast on video, and then
Right.
Emma's a fucking savage. Everyone knows that she doesn't give a fuck, and she'll say what she wants when she wants, and
Yeah,
so
she
just
that
all
that girl has no filter, and I
yeah,
love it.
all those stars aligning for him just like put him in a ultimate shit spot. So I do feel for him. And when it comes to the golf stuff, like I think the golf stuff should be cool because golf content is awesome. And if they're putting the stuff that I think they're gonna put into it, and me and Alex have talked about like the tech and what's gonna go behind the production of it, and if it's gonna if it goes anything like he thinks it's going to, which I believe him, and I think that we're putting a team together that can do that,
Mhm.
like things are going to be great, and there is opportunities for him to get other videos up on his YouTube channel, on their YouTube channel, and go from there. But yeah, I mean, like when you said comes to plugging Vendetta, I guess like maybe one of my only solutions to that would be like if you're going to talk about something that happened on the site, like throw the site, like throw the blog links in there, maybe like
Mhm.
cut those over the top. Like there are other things, but I get whether I get why they want their own YouTube and their own catalog as they say it, as they said it, but maybe just like everyone can like take a breath first before we just like start.
Because it's really not this big of a deal to where like we're like
Exactly.
if this
It
got
should
blown a little bit out of proportion.
right. And part of that was to the way that Cheese getting re-released, like it happened. Like we kind of had
Yeah.
it had our moment in the company, and then Cheese came out, and then we all saw it publicly, and kind of producer Alex got exposed, even though that's kind of the wrong word for it. But
I also feel like that's just the culture of the site, right? Like we're just a bunch of folks who love to talk shit. We're gonna call you out on stuff that we don't like. So
yeah, I agree with that. And so in that sense, like producer Alex did the right thing by coming right back at Jackson. But I guess my mentality would be like, there are people that have put their time in. Jackson, Trey, and Alex Schick are the three that we kind of all like look up to as the people. And like coming for Jackson, you can if you mean you scroll through that YouTube feed, it's I would say like 75% of the videos are his at least.
mhm,
He's put the work in, so I could see why he felt disrespected by it. But maybe just don't come for throat right away. But who
no,
knows? Coming for throats is also why Trey likes it here.
that's true.
All right, that was the Vendetta stuff. Into sports. Uh, all right, one, two, or three. What do you want to go with first, Garrett? I've had
Mm,
three three topics broken down.
let's go with three. We'll work backwards.
All right, three. NBA. So yesterday, you and another Vendetta writer, Ryan, you calling him a casual. I'm very much not an NBA
Nothing
guy.
more
I
than a
know
bronze
that.
sexual. I don't care. I don't worry about him.
Bronze sexual. I, that phrase has been used on the show before with my old friend Scotty Ice. I'm the anti-bronze sexual. I didn't know he was a. Is he like a hardcore Bronny?
He like wanted to come into like the he said something like when we get the offices one day I'm gonna come in a land jersey and like he like is a Lakers fan now because of LeBron like he's gonna rock the LeBron Cleveland jerseys and shit like that. That's why like I didn't take him seriously when he was talking about like oh Denver's a cute regular season team they're not gonna make any noise in the West like da 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 like I don't give a shit what you have to say about it because all you care about is LeBron. When LeBron leaves and maybe goes to another team after his LA contract, you're just gonna ride along with him. That's how we know your opinion doesn't even matter.
That's like a basketball thing though. People love the players a lot more than
Yes.
they love their teams. I don't know.
Correct. There's not a lot of fans anymore that are loyal to the teams anymore. It's just all the players.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, in football, it's so team based, and no one really gives a fuck about the players and the players' rights and shit like that. But it's NBA. Fucking the dynamic of the league
Well,
is a whole different episode.
I think it's different in the NFL too because like there's not a lot of big name players who will leave their team for other teams. Like big names, like obviously Tom went like
We're having
you
it
know
this year though. Like we have like three pretty big name players that want
right.
no part of their team, and we see like it's very different. It's a very different response on Twitter and in the social media than it was for when Anthony Davis wanted out of New Orleans. Like very, very different.
Yes.
I mean, for a moment, we thought that the Houston Texans had launched like a freaking whole trial to make Deshaun Watson look bad. Meanwhile, he was probably actually a scumbag, but different
He's
story.
yeah.
All right.
That's another topic for another time.
Yeah, actually, that's not a topic for this show. I don't do that shit on here. All right. NBA MVP. He kind of alluded to Jokic. It was like a very hot, very, very hot topic on the site for about a month. It was kind of
Which
keeping
makes no sense to
keeping the
me.
lights, especially like the month that it was like. I guess maybe just like the sports dead period, but like, so is it Jokic? Is that like what it is? That is it pretty like finalized now?
If if Nikola Jokic, here's the thing. I am a diehard Denver Nuggets fan. I'm based out of Denver. I'm gonna leave my bias aside out of this, or I'm at least try to. Nikola Jokic should not only win MVP, he should be a unanimous MVP. He should be the second one behind Curry. He like the man. He's MVP. I don't give a shit what you have to say. Since Jamal Murray's been down, Denver is 10-4, right? Without their star point guard, they've beaten three playoff teams. This team is third in the Western Conference and is like 3.5 games behind Phoenix and Utah, right? There's no argument here. The Chris Paul thing is cute, but this Chris Paul thing reminds me of Steve Nash and Kobe the second time around, where Steve Nash robbed Kobe of an MVP only because Phoenix was winning. He didn't really have the stats and shit, whereas Kobe was putting up like 34 points a game and leading the Lakers to a massive high seed in playoffs. It's the same thing with Denver and Phoenix. I feel like Chris Paul has an argument to be made. It's just not valid. Like Jokic is MVP. I don't care what anybody says.
I like Jokic. I'm bad at saying his name, but he's fucking dude. Just like the way that he plays the NBA as a big man is just like it's crazy because he's taken the game that has been a position that's been a traditionally like post position, and just over the last few years that's obviously changed so much. But he can literally play any position, put up triple doubles whenever he wants. It's impressive
He
for
he's
a
one
big
of these
man.
generational players that will revolutionize the game of basketball. Like Steph came and did it, where all the players coming in from like high school and college now are shooters, basically, if you're a guard. Jokic is changing the position because he's already the best passing big man of all time. There's no debate about it. Like the way he finds his court vision and the way he finds players is unlike it's like he's a point guard, legitimately. And that's why he's just there's no debate about best center in the league at Jokic. Embiid, no one gives a shit about Joel Embiid. Like Philly fans,
I don't know if it's. I think Embiid's pretty fucking good too. He was gonna be the
he's
MVP for the
good,
first half of the
yeah.
year.
Until like he just is way too injury prone.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I
the
mean,
issue.
when you're
That
so
dude's made out of
big, it's
glass.
what happens. Yeah. All right. Probably the biggest change in last year we got a brand new. All the leagues experimented with their kind of like bullshit, crazy different playoff experiences, get new teams in, try and like change things up and see what stuck. So the NBA is sticking with their kind of like play-in format, which they adapted in the bubble last year. It's a little bit different. To be honest, to me, it's kind of a little bit confusing because there probably was a better way to do it. But give me your quick thoughts on it and how it does it even really matter?
I think no, I don't really think it matters. I think that I don't mind the idea of a play-in tournament. I think there's a much better way to change the format for the playoffs, and it's to have the top 16 teams in the NBA make the playoffs.
Just
I
all
don't like
NBA, no conferences,
just
no
just
East
all
West.
NBA. No East West, no nothing. Like still have your conferences, obviously, but like when it comes to like the playoffs and stuff like that, your top 16 teams based on record get in.
Do you think it should be
And
like
if
that way
you
for all sports too? Like, do you think that it's that way? It should be that way for the NFL or no?
The NFL is a little bit weirder only because like they have such a shortened season. So like I don't want to say it necessarily like be unfair, I guess, but like there's a lot less wiggle room, I suppose, but I guess that makes each game even that more important than it already is. I could also see it maybe in baseball as well because there's such a massive schedule in baseball
But
to
I was,
get
th-
teams.
I kind of agree because you were talking about the long season and stuff. But for baseball, when you play your division so many times, like you want the like one from the best division. I get that, but then I just think of like last year, like the NFC East, like we wouldn't have had fucking the Redskins, and it probably would have been a win for football. Like
Correct.
there's obviously solutions to it, but just specifically with the play-in format, like if they want to do the top six automatically advance and then have 7, 8, 9, 10 fight it out for those last two spots, what made them not decide not to do 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9, 7, 10 advances to, the 7 slot and then 9, 10 advances to the 8 slot like that. I don't get why they have to fucking complicate shit.
I get like wanting to change things because it's been the same way for fucking years now. But like this, I don't know. There's such better ways to change the playoff format, and they'll probably realize it this year. Like LeBron's being outspoken about it, but that's just because he's going to be in a playing tournament. Like
Right.
he's not guaranteed a playoff spot. Like if he was like 3 or 4 in the West or something, he'd have no opinion on it at all. He's like, I don't give a shit, basically.
We should have known this was coming as soon as because Cuban was a big proponent of it early like before this even happened, before the regular season started. Now and then when him and Luca and his fucking Kristaps Porzingis project failed, they like were scrambling, and it's like, oh well, now we don't want it. And then LeBron, of course, after he comes back and realizes what a shit show he left the Lakers with,
Hmm.
so but I asked if it mattered, you said no, and I do agree with you unless LeBron is in the playoff format and then he has to win that many more games to win. Um,
Correct.
I guess that'd be really good for your good friend Ryan. It'd be hating on LeBron is a hard thing to do nowadays. It really is. I'm an old school. Like I
No,
don't like
I
LeBron.
disagree.
He's just
I,
like
I, I, I disagree. I will
okay. Sorry,
happily I will
hating him on
happily
the
hate on
court is
LeBron.
hard to do.
Oh
Hating him as a
yes.
person, like yeah. Sorry,
Oh
I should
no.
say
Yeah,
like
no.
on the court, like rooting against him is hard to do because he's just kind of proven that he can make magic out of nothing sometimes. But
Yeah, because like people often forget his first finals appearance against San Antonio. He took his second best player was Zydrunas Ilgauskas, basically a center who only played like 4 or 5 seasons, basically, and that's it. Like he took a team with a bunch of fucking nobodies against a dynasty in the San Antonio Spurs. Like he can take a team from the ground up and take them to the finals, basically. Like you can't really knock him for like what he's done on the court, and you definitely can't hate him for all the shit he's done off the court. Like he gives back to his community so much, like as I promised school and all the money he's donated to like places in LA and stuff like that.
all that
Like,
shit's fun in games, but like then he's got to just like sheesh it up all day on Instagram and like my life is so great and I'll never be 100%. Blah blah blah. Like all right, LeBron, we get it.
that I didn't understand that at all. No, I'm never gonna be back to 100%. Like my ankle, like I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, will you chill out?
What percent does LeBron have to be at for him to be ineffective in the NBA? Like 40, 50?
Maybe not even that high.
Yeah, 40 was probably being a little bit generous. Maybe like 30. Like if
Like I'm like if he was playing at 30%, they like he'd be on any team and take him to a playoff team.
yeah, and
Like there's no
him being
denying
on him
the
being
skill and talent he
30%
has.
with Anthony Davis could make that make it a repeat team.
Correct.
All right. Last NBA or kind of last two NBA things. Quickly, do you like Russell Westbrook or no? He's back to like putting up triple doubles like it's nothing and like is it garbage time? Do you respect it? How do you feel?
Uh, like I don't I don't hate him. I'm not a fan of him. I don't like the way he plays. It's just like for a guard, like he doesn't really have a consistent jumper. He does tend to get some of his stats in garbage time, which if Alex Chick is watching this, he's gonna fucking hate it, but I don't really give a shit because he likes the Westbrook triple double shit. Like and like you can't knock him. He's done it for
Uh,
5 seasons now. Like you can't knock it at all. Like I give the man his respect, but I'm just not a fan of the way I'm not a fan of his play style. The same way, not to the extent that Alex Chick hates James Harden. That's a whole different thing.
we barely got into that, but I could tell like that man was like as soon as his name came up, like he like sat up in his chair, like
Oh, he is
the
like
ears got
high
extra
esteem.
pointy and like and we just went. Um, all right, Knicks. Is this just all like? I think the vibe I'm kind of getting because I don't know if you know I'm from New York. I'm not a basketball
Hmm.
guy and definitely not like really a Knicks through and through guy, but the vibe around here is that this is kind of all like bonus territory for the Knicks to be in the playoffs this year. Do you agree, or and is this are they going to be building something right for the future, or is this just like a fluke and wait till everything kind of shakes out?
Nah, I don't get the feeling in that team that it's going to be a fluke. I don't think that they would have the season they'd be having without like Thibodeau and like if Derrick Rose is like reemerging his career and stuff like that in New York. I think he's gonna stay, honestly. I feel like he's gonna see something in New York and like see the young talent that they have. Cause like Julius Randle is playing out of his fucking mind this season. Like he's definitely like most improved player, like without a doubt.
100%.
RJ Barrett's RJ Barrett's finally like learning how to play NBA basketball. He's slowly getting a little bit better. And then it's a well coached team. Like Thibodeau got a lot of slack for his time in Chicago with like how he managed his team and stuff like that from like a minutes perspective and stuff. He doesn't seem to be having the same mistakes in New York. So I think they've got a good core, and then it's going to be when free agents see that the Knicks are back in the playoffs and they're well coached. It's going to be a free agent destination again.
Yeah, I mean, the RJ Barrett thing, I think he's the last, second half of the season, he's kind of been taking like the truer strides to get into what, a long-term NBA guy would be like. I know Obi Toppin, my Westchester guy, has not kind of been the player that they were hoping him to be. But I was talking to my friend who's a big Knicks fan. He said that He's just kind of like bumping into people, and as soon as he learns spacing on the court, he'll be fine. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know if the
Well,
you know
he's also not getting his true minutes that he probably really needs because Julius
he's.
Randle decided to actually play basketball this year.
I wonder if the Randall is if this Randall is sustainable or not. I don't know if obviously like he's gonna putting up the numbers he's putting up every year, and if that's what he needs to be doing. But we'll see. I mean, Knicks basketball is good for the NBA. I think Alex said it.
Correct.
Everyone agrees.
Yep.
The Garden rocking would be cool, and yeah, nothing really changes though until the Nets. Sorry, fuck the Nets. That's not matter until the Knicks sign a true. Um,
A
the Knicks
true
sign a true.
top tier free
Yeah,
agent.
they need a free agent. They need like that idea to change. They need the James Dolan like fucking cloud to be broken up by someone that's not Carmelo Anthony. So we'll see.
Yeah, that didn't really work well for Knicks fans. But like that trade didn't really work out the best for Denver fans either. So it's kind of a wash.
I forget that a Denver team had AI and Melo on the same team, right? Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not mixing that up.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I got to see AI and Melo play at the Pepsi Center like right after Christmas one year. They played Boston and trounced them by like 50. It was incredible. Those are such good teams back in like the early 2010s.
Side note: are you a baseball guy or no?
I don't really follow it that much. Like being based out of Denver, I'll call myself a Rockies fan. Like I'll keep up with what's going on here. And like I was more of a Yankees fan before, but like I don't
Oh,
really like
come on! Why the fucking
but like
Yankees? Like,
I don't really watch baseball that I don't really keep up with it much anymore.
yeah, baseball is a weird sport. You gotta be you're either really into it or you're not at all. It's
Yeah,
there's
there
no real
really is no
casuals.
between.
Yeah. All right, into the NFL. Your sports fandom is weird, especially now that you just told me you're kind of a Yankees fan. You go from Steelers to Nuggets to Steelers. How does that happen?
How I became a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
So it's weird because like I like grew up like I was like a Bengals fan for a hot minute only because like Chad Johnson. Like in my youth, I'm talking like not even like 10 years old or so. I was more like players, not teams, because like my dad was a Jets fan, but like
Oh, poor
or
guy.
I guess rather my dad still is a Jets fan. Yes, shout out to my dad for being a true loyal guy because he's been a Jets fan since since I've been around. That's 25 years now. So like he's been through all the hard times for sure. But I just like I was watching Super Bowl 40 at a Super Bowl party that we were having on base in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the time, and I liked the color scheme. I liked Bill Cowher. It was the Bus's last game. Like guys like Hines Ward, Antoine Randall, and I was just like this. Like I like it. I get it, and it just kind of like sparked from there basically. And I've just kind of been like following them closer and closer every single year, and then just turned into a rabid fandom that I have.
Crazy. Ocho Cinco, I think everyone was a fan of that guy. Um, so I don't really hate the Bengals thing. So they took Najee Harris round one. I am a very big proponent of taking a running back in the first round as a fucking L, no matter what you do, just because of the lifespan of NFL running backs. And you know, we're kind of seeing with Saquon, like the Giants got 1 or 2 good years out of him, and now he's banged up. If he comes back, if he's even 100%, we'll be see, we'll see. But like, give me your thoughts. You okay with it? How do you feel about their draft overall?
I so it's funny because we were doing the draft special that Thursday night. They took Najee Harris, and the Steelers fans in the Vendetta work Slack is myself, Scott, and Brian. And Scott and Brian were very big proponents of taking O line first round, and I was the only person who wanted to take Najee Harris basically. And they took Najee Harris, and I was fucking pumped, right? And then they just kind of threw away the rest of their draft. Like I didn't understand drafting a tight end in round two, especially with the O line talent on the board, and they didn't really do much to address the offensive line in the draft. So I was like, it's hindsight, being a hindsight Henry and like understanding their whole draft class as a whole now. I don't love the pick as much as I did before, but I don't hate it because like running back was a glaring need. So I don't hate it at all. I just didn't hate it as much as they did.
What is what is the what does this like the future look like for the Steelers this year? They going to be in contention again? Like they
No,
no. So then why didn't they
this is
just
not a
like
playoff
what was the
contender.
point of paying Ben again, and what was the point of keeping doing like sticking with the same old shit?
A loyalty thing. I think that's what it was. I honestly believe they brought back Ben because he's the Steelers guy. He's been the Steelers guy for almost 2 decades now. Like that's our guy. That's the Steelers quarterback basically. That's like all I've ever known is Ben
I was just saying, I don't
Roethlisberger.
remember another Steelers quarterback other than Ben Roethlisberger, which is
No,
maybe it's just we're young, but
I mean, it's frustrating because like there is a glaring need at quarterback, and like Mason Rudolph's not the guy. I like Dwayne Haskins, but he's I don't feel like he's going to develop into a starting quarterback. So like, what's the answer at quarterback after this year? Because if you look at the AFC North, this is not a division that Pittsburgh's going to win again with Ben Roethlisberger quarterback. Like we got lucky last year because they won 11 straight games and decided to shit the bed at the end of the year. Like Baltimore, say what you will about like Lamar Jackson, like I'm on the opinion of he's not going to be a sustainable quarterback, but they've got a hell of a roster. Cleveland is a hell of a team, and Cincinnati's doing all the right things. I didn't like the pick of Jamar Chase in this draft this year, but
me
like I get
either.
it
I feel like we're in a minority for that though. Like I don't get why you don't invest in your offensive line when you have Joe Burrow. I don't
because
get
Joe
it.
Burrow
Like
literally blew out his fucking knee because he had no offensive line. And Bengals were just like, okay, like we get it. Like the offensive line isn't very good. What are we gonna do to address this? Wide
I'm a fucking
receiver.
fast wide
That's what we're
receiver.
gonna do.
Yeah, it's like
That's what we're gonna do.
like Joe Burrow must have had to go to war with his general managers. He
Yes.
had to have been like, if you don't draft this guy, like I'm gonna like hold out or some shit for them
Like I'm
to.
gonna fucking leave.
That would be the only reason why I could think like it was an okay pick by the Bengals because or else like and Joe Burrow could probably be really pissed that they did draft it. It was like fuck, like why didn't you get me a lineman that could protect me? Like
Like the only person who will know this are the people inside the Bengals organization. Like we can only assume.
yeah,
I hated that pick. That was such a bad pick for me.
I agree. And then I've been trying to short their symbol stock, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, their stock is fucking outrageous right now.
Dude, when we first partnered with them, I gave them out as my like probably my best value at $20. I got out around like 40 and now it's at like almost 60. It's just like for no reason. Nothing there have
No,
been no games played. They probably had a bad draft, whatever the situation may be. Um, all right. So you kind of mentioned your dad's a Jets fan. I'm a Jets fan. We got Zach Wilson. Is he the second best quarterback in this class? Like, or is it going to be Justin Fields? Like,
no,
did the
no,
Bears win in this
no.
one? No, not Fields.
No, 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 no,
Obviously,
no. It's not
we
Wilson. It's
all are kind
Fields.
of assuming oh, it is Fields.
No, it's definitely Fields.
Yeah,
100% the second best quarterback is Justin Fields. Like I don't like I get it. Like Zach Wilson is definitely the kind of guy that, like fits the New York like media, and he's got the swagger and stuff like that, and
but
like the New
is he
York
really
Trent.
a Mormon? I've asked that a bunch of times, but I don't really. I don't even know if I should say this, and I could probably fucking edit it out after. But like, I don't think Mormons will do well in New York. Like, Sam Darnold was getting fucking mono. Like, I'd rather have my quarterback getting mono than like soaking. All right,
Which
I'm
dude,
gonna have to edit that out. That might be like that might be like a
maybe, but
violation. We'll see. I'll have to ask Trent.
that may not be something that's got to go live. But like, we'll start it.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't think I want my quarterback to never have been had sex before. That's not a portion of who I want leading my offense. Sorry.
I want somebody who's going around getting fucking mono
I'd
because at
rather
least
have
he can get
fucking
some.
mono because at least that means he's like a normal human being. And like I feel
Yeah,
like football aside, like in a locker room, like there are leaders and quarterbacks are by design a leader. So don't get me started that Zach Wilson wasn't may or may not have been a captain at BYU. That's a different story. But like leaders want to be led by normal human beings. Like obviously you take care of your shit in the locker room in football, but like after that, like be a normal human being. Like go out, like do something. Don't fucking just do nothing.
don't just stay at home,
Don't be a Mormon.
play with the dogs and shit.
If I have any
Don't be.
Mormon, if I have any Mormon listeners, like I really appreciate you guys listening. I'm sorry, I'm just probably a little ignorant and don't understand your life. That's all I'll say on that. Moving
We
on.
gotta get that on a T-shirt if we can put that in the show. That's gotta be on a T-shirt.
Um. All right. Talking about Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville. Urban Meyer just somehow decided to. Urban Meyer somehow finagled that organization into signing Tim Tebow. I don't know if it's a publicity stunt or whatnot. He's like 34 years old. He's failed as a quarterback. He's failed as a professional baseball player. Now he gets to go like try and relive his glory days with his old college coach. Does he make the opening? Whatever. Does he make the roster?
Yes, off of name alone. I think that Urban Meyer would get it. He's already getting a ton of heat online because there's other players, cough cough, Colin Kaepernick, who are still unsigned by NFL teams, but we're signing Tim Tebow to contracts, right? And so he's already catching a ton of heat for that, and especially if they sign him and then cut him before week one, all the hell that he's going to catch online, especially by fans in general, because fans weren't necessarily pleased with the signing either. But I think what it is it's just he's looking to sign Tim Tebow to put asses in seats.
But the putting asses in the seats should have been taken care of by drafting the best college quarterback prospect since everyone considers since Andrew Luck. Like that should put enough asses in the seat. And you hiring like a fucking legend within your college state, the Florida legend brought them fucking national championships. Like that should put asses in the seat. And them being a competent organization seemingly should do it. Signing a fucking, Tebow at just to like put a name on a jersey and get some jersey sales sounds like a really dumb idea.
That's exactly what
But
it is as well. I
circling
feel
back to the
like
cap thing though, like obviously there's a whole lot more implications in the Kaepernick situation than everything going on. However, he's not going to be an NFL quarterback anymore. That was made pretty clear. Even after the tampering stuff, like everything that came out, like Trey. I know Trey has an article about this. He was not a sustainable NFL quarterback. He had a great opportunity with great coaches and never kind of stuck around after. The rest is kind of just like whatever you. The rest is just kind of like conclusions you jump to in your own head based off of what you
mm-hmm.
read online. So I don't really know the true details, but like I saw a lot of the Kaepernick stuff like lumped in with that. And as much as I don't like Tim Tebow, I don't like that has nothing to do with this. Like if you got signed as a quarterback to be a mentor to Trevor Lawrence, then you can have this conversation. But for him to be signed as a tight end as a 34-year-old, like the Kaepernick thing has nothing to do with this.
I think it's more so it's a player who's been out of the game for a while, getting an opportunity to be on an NFL roster. I don't necessarily think it's a quarterback thing or like him switching positions to be a tight end. I think it's because he's been out of the game so long, like Kaepernick, and Kaepernick hasn't had a chance to correct, he's not going to be an NFL starter, but he can go be a backup somewhere. He'd be a serviceable backup. So if your quarterback gets injured or something for like a couple of weeks, he can go in, maybe win you a game or two, and that's it. That's all I ask of him. I think the issue is both guys have been out of football for so long, and Tebow's getting another chance, even to do it at a different position, which he has like minimal experience in. I think that's more the issue than like signing the quarterback to be like a mentor and stuff like that. Because that he's going to try and talk to Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be in Trevor Lawrence's ear, even as a tight end.
The only reason that I think that could work out for them is because I know they're, Trevor Lawrence is a big religion guy. Obviously Tebow is
Mr. Christian.
I was gonna say try to be Mr. Jesus, but that probably doesn't play either. But yeah, so that like a natural connection they have. I don't know. And anyway, like Florida is probably not the state that was gonna. Kaepernick was not gonna get signed by a team in Florida. Let's just say that he's got more likely to be signed by a California team. All right. So it's the NFL. I want to wrap up with some UFC. Who's the next big star? Who should we be looking for and like coming up that might be the next McGregor or someone along those lines?
So I'll give you some prospects to look out for, but I can't project the next like Conor, right? Because there's only ever going to be one Conor. What Conor's done for the sport of MMA as a whole is like he reminds me of Steph Curry, where he's a fucking legend. But like, listen, here also the thing is Conor's like low key underrated as an MMA fighter. Like I know his last couple performances like may have shown otherwise. Like I'm not sure Conor was fully focused, and I'm gonna get into that in an article later on, probably this month or so, about Conor leading up to his Poirier fight next month, or in July rather. But the stuff he's done for the sport is astonishing. But some names to look out for. Tom I think his last name is Aspinall. He's a British heavyweight who I believe is like 23 or 24. He just beat Andre Arlovsky back in February, and this kid is legit. He's the black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He has like lightning in his hands as well, and he's kind of tracking to be a real heavyweight contender. He'd be the first heavyweight title holder in UFC history, which would be huge for British MMA because they've had some real guys come out, most notably like Michael Bisping, Darren Till. Another guy to look out for from that area of the world though is Paddy the Baddy. I don't know if
I fuck with that name. I don't
dude
know much about him, but that's a fucking cool name to root for.
he just he has everything you want. He can talk on the mic. He can wrestle. He's got grappling skills. He's got knockout power. He's got the charisma to carry a division, basically. He is a guy that you could put in immediately against a top 5 opponent, and he's going to carry his weight in the fight. Casey O'Neill is a women's strawweight fighter who just had her first UFC fight. She had her UFC debut back in February as well, and she ragdolled Shayna Dobson for 8 minutes before she basically finished her on the ground. She came out of Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand, which is they put out studs in one championship and promotions like that. They were really big in Pride and stuff like that back in the early 2000s and stuff. She's one to watch out for as well in a division that doesn't really have a ton of big prospects at the moment. Casey O'Neill is definitely something to keep an eye on. And then I've been super high on Sadiq Youssef. He's bantamweight, flyweight or bantamweight. He's one of the smaller guys on the UFC roster. I watched him 2 or 3 years ago. I was watching him on the undercards of pay-per-views and shit like that, on fight nights and stuff. And he's another guy. He kind of reminds me of Aljamain Sterling in the sense of of course minus the selling an injury and taking a dive to win the title, but that's another story for another time. He's a guy that he super wrestling based, but he's super willing to throw hands. It's an exciting time for all these UFC prospects because they're all kind of sort of molded into one thing basically. They're all super well rounded. They're getting their belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff, but they're also training super hard in knockout power because that's what gets you up the rankings basically.
And
You can
that's what,
decision people
and
all you
that
want.
that sells fights too, knockout
Correct.
sell fights and that shit. So
if you're just decisioning people left and right, one, you're not going to climb the rankings. Two, yeah, you're not going to sell fights, so your pay-per-view buys are going to be low, which means you're not going to make money off of pay-per-view buys because your pay-per-view points aren't going to be that good.
Since you mentioned getting the money and stuff like that, Jake Paul, after he embarrassed the entire sport of wrestling and Ben Askren and to an extent MMA, but whatever. I kind of get I don't even know how to feel about it. My emotions have kind of changed, but at first, Ben Askren, it straight up embarrassed the entire sport of wrestling and Olympic wrestling. But I'm kind of moving on to that. However, he did go back to the UFC fight in Jacksonville and kind of embarrass Dana White and the entire sport, calling them out for the money they make and shit like that. What's going to happen with it? Because it's kind of getting exposed more and more. These fighters, their fight careers are getting shorter and shorter. There's the money. There's seeming to be more and more money in UFC, but the fighters are not getting it. What's the solution?
I don't want to say the solution is dipping your toes in boxing to secure your bag basically and coming back to MMA with your money, but that's maybe what it is because Conor went and made I think he made 75 million off the Floyd fight, and then his next fight, his show and win was only $4 million or so.
Conor's money came from the Floyd fight, not from
yes.
he made money from the Floyd fight. Compared to what he's made it from UFC, it was a fucking sneezing.
I think the easiest and also at the same time the most difficult solution here is to start an MMA union. I think if the fighters unionize and say, hey, listen, we got to get paid more. Look at these other combat sports athletes and the money they're fucking making. How are we not making the same amount of money? Because last year was the most profitable year in UFC history, I believe. I think I read that. Where it was like top 3 or top 5 in profitable years during a fucking pandemic, right? That just goes to show what a fucking legend Dana White is, that he was still putting on fights at the very start of the pandemic with all the Fight Island shit,
And he
and then
yeah, and
all
he
the way
fucking went
through.
through it. He figured it out and they made it work. And they, for a while they were the only thing on TV. Like they were the only thing
Correct.
you could watch and bet on.
And that's why like that first pay-per-view from Fight Island was like it was an average card. It was fine. It had a title fight on it, obviously, because like all the pay per views will. But like that pay per view did so fucking well with like pay per view buys and shit like that because there was no sports on. Like Dana knew what he was doing. He said, if I can find a way to get these guys isolated and tested every single day and make sure that they're following COVID protocols and shit, and if I can get them to fight, I'm making some fucking money.
And he made it
And that's
super
exactly what
strict too. He
happened.
did a good job of it. Yeah.
Oh no, he did it. He did an outstanding job. Like there was not a lot of COVID issues when he first started doing it. There like hasn't been a whole lot in general.
You said you're in Colorado, right? So I think you.
Yep.
So you gambling is legal there, correct?
Yep.
Do you gamble or no, or is this something you dabble in?
I'm starting to get a little bit more back into it. With like the like I'm like I signed up for like FanDuel because like I was using DraftKings Sportsbook. Like I don't really like how that like app operates. It's like slow basically. So I like the feel of FanDuel more. I'm gonna start doing FanDuel a little bit more.
So
But it's something I definitely want to get into.
do you bet UFC or what do you like? What do you primarily bet when you do bet?
When I primarily bet like NBA. I'll do like player over unders. I'll do like um money lines and shit like that. But like I have bet on like UFC cards before. It's definitely something that I try to do for like every pay per view almost, like one or two guys that I'm like 100% sure that's gonna collect me some money.
Yeah, betting UFC and just betting anything with such huge favorites and stuff like that gets difficult just because of the numbers are so big and spread like that. So do you like if you have the like do you take heavy favorites or you like to take the dogs or if you like you kind of said guys that you know are going to win. So what do you do with that? You just lay the money and just deal with it.
I kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a really big believer in certain guys in their dogs or even heavy dogs, I'm still betting the money. And if I lose it, I'll lose it. Honestly, it'll
Yeah.
come back in another form. But like there's there's
It's a hell
times
of a
where
gambling
I'll
attitude. It'll come back.
like I'm gonna make it in some other fashion, right? I'm gonna make it at work, or I'm gonna make it off of other gambling, like shit like that. I bet I put a decent amount of money on Michael Chandler this Saturday, and I'm gonna be doing a 262 like preview because I try to do every UFC card. I didn't get the last one because I was a little bit busy, but I try to do every pay per view, um, where I like break down the fights and like I give my predictions and stuff like that. Me and Sam have been kind of taking over that right now. Sam and I are kind of leading the charge for like all MMA coverage for the site in general, basically.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm gonna be getting that out in the next couple of days or so. But no, I'm super riding Michael Chandler this weekend. I've got money on him. That's one guy that I'm a firm believer in. If you're gonna bet money on the UFC this weekend, the money should go to Michael Chandler.
All right, you heard it here from Garrett Burroughs first. Twitter's at the Notorious GMB. Is that right?
Yep.
At Notorious GMB. You can check out his writing on the site. But definitely for the next title fight, check out his Burroughs Burning MMA questions. If you have any questions about MMA, you can hit him up on Twitter. Anything I didn't ask, it's all there. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube, following everything. It's at Media Vendetta, at Vendetta Sports Media, and pretty much all your different socials. Again, Notorious GMB. I'm your host, Adam Krieger. Thanks for listening to Kriegs Korner. See you guys.